So that's enough about me. We've been lucky enough to have Aaron Evans here today. I'll do a little intro, but I'll let him say a few words. But Aaron came to me, I guess, and to us about
nearly 6 years ago.
6 years ago. And at the time, Aaron was playing for Canberra FC, and he was told that he wasn't good enough, that he would never be a footballer, that it was impossible, and that everyone sort of just gave up on him, I guess. And he came to me and he said, "Can you help me? And can we do something?" And like I've said, and we say to everyone here, it's not about just me or someone calling up a club or a coach. It's about the full process. So I said to Aaron, if you're, I can't remember the exact word, but I said, if you're willing to do everything that I tell you to do, you'll have a chance. And we'll go through his journey so that you can see a real life example of our first player from this academy that has gone from where you guys are sitting to professional football and his journey. So Aaron trained with us for I think a good 12 months, and at the time was sort of between Canberra FC under 20s and first grade and that sort of level, but came in with us and we started working on the things that we do with you guys, and we're in the gym, we were training more, and I was telling him the importance of his diet, the importance of his load and building up and increasing a good foundation, because the thing here in Canberra is, even if you get to first grade, I think you play something like 22 matches or something, 16, 18 games or something. When you go into Asia or into Europe, into a professional league, you're expected to play over 40 games a year, train twice a day, every day, in very tough conditions. And if you haven't done that from a young age, it becomes very difficult and your body breaks down. And that was something I said to Aaron, it's going to take you a number of years to get to a good level. So we started working on that and increasing his load a lot. And I know there's a lot of conflicting views, and we have our views on things. Everyone's got views, which is fine. But for me and from my experience in some of the biggest clubs in the world, one of the consistent factors is the amount of training that you have to go through in order to improve. And I think some of you boys have probably seen that and felt improvement, which I hope you've seen. So 12 months, I said to Aaron, keep training, keep going along. And we were thinking about, what's going to happen, because one of the best messages that I always have is you have to always be ready, because you don't know who's watching you. And even when you come to meetings like this, who's got a drink bottle here? Who's hydrating during the day? These are lessons that I learned, small things, because your character is as important as what you do on the pitch as off the pitch. And people will watch you and will watch you. And people think it's just so easy that, if I'm really good on the field, everything's going to happen, but it's not the case. It doesn't happen that way. So we worked with Aaron on his attitude, on his mentality, and the main key point was being ready at every moment, because you don't know when something's going to come. And sort of 12 months later, I get a call from a club in Hong Kong called Typo. And so, has anyone heard of this club in here? No one's heard of them. So if I said to most people, you're going to go to Hong Kong and play, you probably all look at me like I'm a bit crazy and probably say, no chance. There's nothing in Hong Kong except, probably good food or whatever, and it sounds like a bit of a holiday. But Aaron was in such a zone and such a good mindset, and we saw that there would be a 6 or 7 year career progression for him, that I called Aaron up at about 4 p.m. and I said, Aaron, meet me at Gus's Cafe. Does anyone know Gus's? That's in the city. Yeah, Gus's. So there we are. And I sat Aaron down, and I honestly, I wasn't sure what his reaction would be. And I said, Aaron, I've just got a call from a club in Hong Kong, and they want you to sign for a year. And he said, oh, okay, good, I'm ready. I said, but you have to leave in the morning. And what was your response?
Absolutely.
That was it. He said, my bags are packed. So the next morning, Aaron flew out, and well, this was actually my intro for you, but I'll let you tell your story.
You're doing better than me.
4 days later, he signs his first contract. Here he is. There's Aaron. So we had to get his transfer papers in from Canberra FC to Patafta Pro, which was interesting. I had a bit of problems there. And Aaron signs his first contract, professional contract, in Hong Kong. 4 days later, he's playing in front of 5,000 people in Mongkok Stadium in Hong Kong against Kichi, I think. Yeah. And I think that Aaron's sort of there in his first game. I think the week before he was playing against Tuggeranong or something.
In front of all of maybe 5 people.
So that was the start of Aaron's journey. So this is about 6 years ago. And suddenly you start to see in Asia the passion and the immense sort of, I don't know, just pure, genuine passion for football. And suddenly Aaron's got these interesting fans that are coming up to him, and he didn't really have that back here at home, I don't think, or maybe a couple that do.
Nothing to this level.
And then suddenly, this was another boy that we sent there as well, but suddenly, goal.com's picking these stories up, and Aaron's in the news, and it's all sort of happening quickly, but we made sure that we prepared Aaron and his mentality, and he was prepared for this. And I'll let you explain, maybe the training load sort of increased as well.
Yeah, completely. Well, as Kaz said, I was with Canberra FC, and I was with them for maybe 2 or 3 years. And as you guys probably know, in Canberra, they're basically trying to tell you to train less, like the local clubs, I mean. So I was probably doing about 2, maybe 3 sessions if I was lucky with the actual club, and it just wasn't enough for me. So I got into contact with Kaz, and I just asked him, as he said, about his story. I wanted to bounce ideas off of him of what I can do to increase the workload, or what I can do to one day become the professional footballer that I always dreamt of. So Kaz and I got together and we worked out a plan and a routine and a regime for me. So I'd be doing, for example, Canberra FC training on the Monday, my own sessions as well besides that, and then on the Tuesday it would be free because there'd be no training with Canberra FC. So Kaz put me through some sessions of his own, and then we continued to do that through the Thursday, through the Friday, through the Saturday, etc., for a number of months to prepare me for inevitably one day becoming a professional footballer. And I believe that, and it's hard work, but I believe that the more you train, the more mentally and physically stronger you can get on the pitch and off the pitch. I believe anything is possible. And there's always going to be those doubts in the back of your head where you're tired or you're sick or you have a family event or you want to go on holiday or fishing, whatever you guys like to do. But at the end of the day, it comes down to you. If you want to eventually become a professional footballer, you have to sacrifice these things. I'm not saying you have to sacrifice everything and just completely focus on football, but you've got to find the balance, and you've got to just have the hunger to continue to do it and continue to train when nobody's watching. Because for me, that was what I found the hardest, was all the times I was training, I was doing it alone. I wasn't doing it with a coaching staff, or I wasn't doing it with my friends or a football club or anything. I was doing it all alone. So I was in either my backyard, or I'd run down to the oval, and there was nobody looking at me, nobody telling me what I'm doing right, nobody telling me what I'm doing wrong. There wasn't even a friend to pass the ball to, and I'd get it back. So I'd just be hitting balls up against the brick wall and just learning that way. So it's not easy, but if you want to put in the effort, believe me, there's a big reward, and Kaz will continue with the story, and hopefully you guys can get a little bit more of an insight on it.
Yeah, so the story goes on, and then Aaron plays more and more games, and the load starts picking up, and he's training all the time and training twice a day, and we're in contact all the time. And I was in Hong Kong with him at the start, and he got the first taste of being a professional, and this is in Hong Kong, where probably no one would ever expect that anything's possible out of there. But the load was greater, and it was quite a challenge, I'd say, at the start.
Extremely.
And then Aaron starts to get a little bit of publicity, which was quite nice for him, I think, and he was quite happy with that. And you just see and can appreciate the difference there to here, because you know, they really take this very, very seriously. And then we get to, before that one, we get to 6 months down the track, and Aaron's played for the club, and he gets a call from the club, and the club says, thanks for your services, but we no longer require you. And so he hits I guess a bit of a stumbling block, which is going to happen in any career that you have, not just football. And Aaron calls me and he says, the club doesn't want me anymore, what do we do? And I said, Aaron, you got two options. One, you go back to Canberra and you can play for Canberra FC your whole life. Or fly to Thailand and meet me there. Thailand, not Hong Kong, Thailand. Most people go to Thailand for a holiday. So fly to Thailand, meet me there. So what did you say?
Absolutely. See you tomorrow.
Same thing. So we met up in Thailand. Aaron trialled with 3 or 4 clubs in Thailand, which again, no one would ever consider would get you anywhere. And probably no one from Australia would go there. And to be honest, I've tried to help some A-League players who want to play in Thailand, and you know, it's too hard for them. The conditions are too hard. They want the comforts. So we go to about 3 or 4 clubs around Thailand, and we're on, you know, we were going there together, and we end up at a club called Campaign, how do you say it?
Campaign Pet.
Campaign Pet. And they love Aaron there, he trialled there, and he ends up signing for a club called Campaign Pet. And so the journey's still alive. So we leave Hong Kong, I get his transfer papers through, and Aaron joins the club. And now this is, just so that you can appreciate, this is Thailand 3rd division. This isn't Thailand top level, this is 3rd division Thailand. Just, you need to understand, this is the commitment that Aaron had that showed me the drive of what he was willing to go through to become a professional footballer. And I'm not saying it to scare anyone, don't worry, I'm not taking anyone to Thailand right now, but I'm just saying that I want you to understand the mental drive, which will not only make you successful in football, but anything you do. And this is the hunger that Aaron had. And this is his journey. Yeah, has. So here's Aaron in the launch, and here's Aaron suddenly in looking pretty mean there in things. So again, this is 3rd division in Thailand. So one of the messages that I have is Asia is booming in terms of football, and we sort of are a bit distant from it. We don't see any of that. But this is a 3rd division club in Thailand that have a huge fan base, and they're professional teams. They train, you were training every day for...
Every day, nearly twice a day, even in the 3rd division in Thailand.
And I mean, 4-hour sessions it was insane. It was crazy. But Aaron kept developing and improving over and over and over. And I said to you a number of times, it's still going to take you time to build your base, which he did. And here's Aaron playing for the club, and he did extremely well, and actually became sort of captain of that team, and sort of guided them, and they had some success. And Aaron, you re-signed there twice, I think.
Yeah, I re-signed there I was there at the club for 2 years. Yeah.
So Aaron stayed in this club for 2 years, and again, Campaign Pet is in a sort of a village, and don't get scared as parents. I'm not sending anyone to villages, but Aaron was the first one. And it's not in a bigger city like Bangkok, so he was out in sort of a rural town, and you know, football, eat, sleep, football, eat, sleep, train, football, train, eat, sleep, just football. There was no distractions. And what I said to him at this time is, you need to go from playing 16 to 18 games a year in Canberra to now playing over 30 to 40 games a year because in Thailand they have the FA Cup, in Thailand they have the league games, you have friendlies during midweek friendlies. So his level was increasing, and over the 2 to 3 years, he developed a very, very good base, and he was starting to really improve as a player. Here's just another example. And this is 3rd division, so still big crowds he was getting at these games. So just the passion is just immense. And I mean, if anyone's ever in Thailand, I'd urge you to watch some of the Premier League games. It's fantastic. This is your last game.
Yeah, this was the 2nd year of being at the club. We actually finished 2nd in the league that year, and if you come 1st or 2nd in the league, you got to go for the playoffs to promotion to the 2nd division. So this was the last game of the season. If we'd have actually won the game, we would have been champions, and we would have got automatic promotion. Anyway, unfortunately, we didn't win the game. We drew 0-0, and the team, or my team, ended up coming 2nd. And this is just a little bit of the reaction of how I felt. There might not be sound. So this is just after the game. I'm obviously very, very disappointed, but they're still very passionate and want to give their support to me for the 2 years.
So just another insight into 3rd division Thailand, which is phenomenal, and it's an amazing sort of experience that Aaron had for 2-3 years, and you can see that the club was very appreciative of his efforts. So he was always regularly in the Thai news, and that was quite fun. And there's a bit more. Then we got to a point in Aaron's career where at the time I was in another small country called Laos, which is where I still do a bit of work there, and I was general manager of the club there. And again, for most people, you wouldn't even believe or think of ever going there to play football. And I was working for a club, and we got into a regional tournament called the Mekong Cup, and where you play against each champion of the champion of Thailand, the champion of Cambodia, champion of Myanmar, Vietnam, and that's it. Yeah, and last. And at the time, we needed a centre back, and Aaron came off contract in Thailand, and I called him up and I said, Aaron, would you come and play for us in last? What did you say?
Absolutely. Actually, there's a funny story behind it. My contract had finished in Thailand, and I actually flew my mother over to have a little bit of a holiday after the season had finished. So me and my mum were having a few days in Bangkok, and I was scheduled 2 days later to go back to Australia with her on the same flight. One morning, my phone's on the table and I get a ring from Kaz. Mum, hold on a sec, I just need to answer the phone. Anyway, I answer the phone and Kaz is on the other line. And he says, what are your plans now, Aaron? And I said to him, look, my mum's here, I'm going back to Australia with my mum in 2 days, and we'll sort it out when I get back. And he's like, oh, well, I've got you an offer, but you've got to be here tomorrow. Again, the 3rd time. And for the 3rd time I'll say it, no worries, I'll see you tomorrow. So I got off the phone and I told my mum the news. At first she was sad, of course. She has to fly home alone, and I'm going off onto another country again, new experience. As you know, mother-son relationship, it's really close. Anyway, so yeah, the next day I arrived in Laos, met Kaz at the airport.
And we signed. And so we signed Aaron to a contract, and I said, Aaron, even though we've got this relationship and I've been helping you, I'm general manager of the club and there's absolutely zero guarantee that you'll play. And I said, you know, this is my role at the moment, and you need to prove yourself even more now. And we had a Brazilian coach at the time, and I said, you know, we're actually cousins, just so that you know. Second. I said it's irrespective that we're family or not, or that I've helped you to get to this point, but if you want to play, you need to prove yourself even more now. So the message in that is the journey never stops. You know, just because you get to one level, you need to keep proving yourself over and over again. So anyway, we signed for this club. And then here we are flying out to Cambodia that time or something like that.
Cambodia or Myanmar, one of the two.
Yeah, here we go. So we were up against the Myanmar champion Yadanabon, and our team's Lansan here. So there's Aaron. And that was us arriving, and we thought we looked pretty sharp in our suits, and I thought that was pretty cool. So we're in Myanmar, and we actually played against the Vietnamese team before that, Da Nang, and Aaron didn't start. You were pretty annoyed with me as well. And but as I said to Aaron, I said, you need to go and prove yourself. And he got on in the last 15 minutes, and he did really well. And then we get to the next game in Myanmar, and Aaron's starting, so you see him here at the back. Aaron, and we had our team here. And this was the stadium that night. How many are there?
Numbers. Absolute numbers. 60, 70 maybe?
Yeah, 60,000 people. So what I said to Aaron, this is your chance. I said, remember Gus's? Remember that time at Gus's? I said, you have an opportunity now on a big stage to prove yourself, but you need to do the business. I can't do anything for you. I can't play for you. I can only get you this far. And now you're starting, and
It's up to me.
And it's up to Aaron. And Aaron said, no problem, I'm ready. We ended up winning that game. We got through to the finals. There's Aaron in the front there. And things started to change a little bit after this. Aaron had an exceptional tournament. He was up against some of the best strikers in Asia. Aaron's a centre back. He was up against some of the best strikers in Asia, who are very, very highly rated, who have played for big clubs. And suddenly, he's put into an environment where he can prove himself. So this has taken 4 or 5 years, or 4 years, to build up to this point. But he took his opportunity, he grabbed it. He didn't give up. He had 2 or 3 setbacks. He could have come back to Canberra, but he stayed there. And suddenly, a lot of clubs started talking about Aaron. And then, we got to the final against a club called Broome United. Has anyone heard of Broome United? So I'll give you some context. Broome United is one of the biggest clubs in Asia. They're a Thai club, Thai Premier League club. Broome United plays in the AFC Champions League, so with a lot of the A-League clubs. So for context, A-League clubs have a salary cap of about $2.5 million Australian dollars to spend on their playing team a year. Broome spend $10 million US dollars, so 15 million Australian dollars on their playing group per season. The striker that Aaron had to mark in the final, he earns about $1 million US dollars a year to play in Thailand. And I said to Aaron, you know you're up against, what's his name? Diogo. And this is that mentality that we wanted to train for years, and Aaron said to me, I don't care. He's not going to touch the ball. And Aaron he was so focused, he said, I really couldn't care less who he is. He's not going to touch the ball with me. And so we went into the game, and they were very arrogant because they're such a big club, and our budget was considerably considerably less, but we had the same mentality that we try and give you guys, I gave to the team, which was, it doesn't matter. You know, we have to work together, we have to have the right mindset. Well, that was just us at a dinner. So we're getting ready, and again, another massive crowd for the game. I think we had 14,000 at that game. And here's Diogo. So there's Aaron. This is the Brazilian. He's on huge money. He's a superstar. He can't walk the streets in Asia. And there's Aaron. And I said to Aaron, whatever you do, don't let him touch the ball. Don't let him do anything. Don't let him score. Don't let him do anything. And as Aaron says, he's still in the pocket now, right?
Yep.
So Aaron had an exceptional game. But what did this do? This made the eyes of lots and lots of clubs go, who is this guy? He's just put Diogo, and no one knows this Diogo bloke, but in Asia he's big. This is one game that changed Aaron's career. He didn't let Diogo touch the ball. And normally this guy scores 30 plus goals a year. He's a big player. And Aaron, again, coming from, you know, this is 4 years after Canberra FC, so you guys know. We ended up winning that game. Just a small team from last, and we beat the Thai champions. There's Aaron there on the left. There, you didn't let him touch the ball. And people started to notice Aaron a lot after this game. We didn't win the tournament, but we ended up as runners-up, which was quite a good achievement. And suddenly people were asking for Aaron's signature, because overnight he became well known in Asia, and people started to recognise him, and people wanted him to, you know, they saw him as a good centre back now, so he'd earned his right. At that time we also had a special guest, Daniel Agger, which I don't know if anyone knows him, but he used to be, I think he was Liverpool's captain for a while.
Yeah.
And so Aaron got to meet one of his heroes, I guess.
Yep.
And so similar to my story with Beckham. There's another story, you didn't let him go from your side. And then Aaron was picked in the Lao All-Star team after that, which was an interesting experience as well. So another opportunity for Aaron to showcase his skills. So again, the opportunities will come with the work, and then it's about grabbing those opportunities when they do come. And then that was against Montong United. So anyway, this all occurred, and Aaron did exceptionally well in about 3 or 4 games. And okay. And then we started to get a lot of offers for Aaron from clubs in around Asia. And then at this particular time, an offer came in from a club in Indonesia called Barito. And we discussed it, and it was a very significant offer. It was a big club, financially very good. And again, we saw the progression, and it was the next step, and it was the right step for Aaron to go to the next level. So what did we do? We flew over again. Next day, signed in Indonesia now. So Aaron packed his bags and he's flying straight to Indonesia. And the other aspect of football that you get, which people don't see, is the cultural experiences that you get to experience throughout your career, because you can end up in vast locations, and one thing that brings people together is they all play the same sport. But here's Aaron with the president of the club, and there's quite a heavy Muslim influence. So Aaron's, you've experienced that culture quite a lot, and it's quite insightful to be a part of all of that. So it's not just about the football journey. There's Aaron signing his contract. Now it's all done. And then this is where the next phase of Aaron's career starts. So he signs for Burrito. And again, what did I say to you at this time? You're not there yet. now you need to prove yourself all over again. You've gone to a new club, new coach, new fans. You need to start proving yourself, just like you did from in Hong Kong through to Thailand, through to Laos, now through to Indonesia, and you need to prove yourself again. So now we go to the next level of football in Asia, and we get to the presentation night of the club. And this is something to this day that I'm very proud of Aaron, but the experience, and this is something that, I've never seen in my own life, but Aaron gets presented to this. Presentation night, 100,000 fans. So Aaron's gone from Canberra FC to, as you can see, the progression keeps going, and Aaron's presented in front of 100,000 fans in the stadium. There you go, that's a drone view. So this is just the opening ceremony for the club, for Aaron. So quite a spectacular experience. Again, just another view. So there's Aaron in his little, I'm not sure what they call the traditional dress, but learning about new cultures and great experience, but I think quite overwhelming to be in front of that.
Extreme.
And now you've got some pressure now because you're in a big club and you've got expectation and you have to perform. You're a foreign player, you're in front of these crowds, there's a lot of pressure on you now, and this is something else that we worked on with Aaron in terms of how to handle that with his mentality and keeping grounded and being humble and all those sorts of things. This was
Just from my own telephone,
Aaron,
just before we're about to walk on.
So here you see the club bus and Aaron being presented here with his face on the bus as well, which is quite cool. There with around all the fans. And then it started to get to a point where Aaron found it quite difficult to move around, if you know what I mean, in terms of actually being able to live. And this is sort of after each. This is a training session. So he's not left alone. That's another one train. And then this was one of his first matches in Indonesia. So again, we all forget that football is worldwide, and in Indonesia the passion is insane. And this is just another element that Aaron had to get used to in terms of how do you play in front of these types of crowds.
say a word.
Of course not. Long way from Deacon.
This is a different match.
Yeah.
There's a different stadium, another match, just very similar. I mean, each game there's a lot of things. Then, just like I was saying, sometimes you come across great players, and then suddenly Aaron's playing against Michael Essien, who I don't know if anyone knows Essien. Anyone know Michael Essien? Yeah. So there's Aaron against Essien, and there's Essien a few years ago with Chelsea. So football's a small world. You know, as I said, you always have to be ready because you don't know who you're going to be up against. Carlton Cole as well was a good Premier League player. Who did he play for? I think West Ham. And there's Aaron against him there. And that was him from West Ham. Yeah, another Premier League player. So then we start to get to the point with Aaron where he stayed at this club for 2 years, but his football kept increasing, his mentality improved, but then his body and his foundations physically improved where he could sustain 40 to 50 games a year, which he couldn't do in Canberra. There was a 5-year step to get to that point. You can't do it overnight because your body will break down, you'll be injury prone, it's quite difficult. But you're out there, you know, how many games and the travelling, and there's a lot of things that go into it. I'm not Shane Smelt, who used to be an A-League striker in Indonesia. A couple more things. There's Aaron's proud parents in the top right in the news. So they got to share the experience with him, which is really cool as well for the parents. Yeah, then it gets a bit silly because then see Aaron in shopping centres in Indonesia. He's a bit excited, that guy. The important message of those things is you actually become a role model for other people eventually, which Aaron has become for a certain group of young kids, and that's something that each and every one of you can aspire to become. And that's why we try and teach, and we want to build a good community of kids and players and people and families that share those similar values, because Aaron spends time with the fans and he gives them the time of day, and he's not arrogant. And he keeps his feet grounded. He comes home to Canberra, he knows where he came from, and he remembers the times when he was at Deakin, but he gives these kids the time of day, and he's now someone that they look up to, which is really special. So I think that's quite a good achievement.
Especially when you let your mum fly back home by herself.
Really nice, aren't I?
And just a few other nice pictures from the experience.
Assist. No.
Anyway, there's Aaron with his parents sharing the experience, and both of his parents, I think they were in shock that game, coming out in the stadium like that. Your brother, sharing it with his brother. Yeah.
How did the club go during that season?
My club?
Yeah.
The first season we finished 7th, and then the season just this year we finished half the season on top of the ladder.
Oh, good.
Yeah, half was good. And then the second half of the season we ended up finishing 9th. So that come down to a little bit of a complete group where we were mentally and physically just overwhelmed, I believe. Because obviously Kaz has run through the mentality with me, but he hasn't run it through the other 35 other players in the team. So when we got to the level of being first or second on the ladder, the media started more, the press, the talking, the fans, everything just become a little bit too much for the players, and as you see, we didn't have a successful season, unfortunately.
So just a couple more, I guess just the same sorts of images, but Aaron's just left this club and he received 5 or 6 new offers in Asia, so he'll be going back, he'll be signing for another club in Indonesia. This season he'll be going back, so the purpose again of this little, playing in the AFC Cup as well, but the purpose of this story, if you take anything away from today, is just Aaron sitting here was exactly the same as anyone sitting here today, with a dream, and we found a way, not necessarily in Europe, which everyone thinks of Europe, but we found a way in Asia, but there was a lot of sacrifice, there was a huge amount of dedication, and he's been able to bring a lot of different aspects that you need as a footballer, not just what you do on the field, but what you do off the field, into his game. But as I've said to him, and we've even been talking now, we're still challenging Aaron because it's not over yet, and we still mentor Aaron through the process, I'd say, and I'm always striving for him to improve more and more as a human, as a person, and try to achieve and get to the next level, because there's always more that you can do. So that's just sort of to end the story about his journey, but we wanted to give you a real life story, not just a YouTube video that we can put on, because as I said, Aaron's from here and we're all from here, and we know what you're feeling, and we know what you're trying to do, and what you want to achieve in football, and it's definitely possible, but it comes from your belief, and not from your coach, and not from your parents, or not from us, but it comes from you first. And as I've said to a lot of young players, if you don't believe that it's possible, then it won't happen. That's where it all starts for each and every one of you. And opportunities will come. They will come. It's like with Aaron, the amount of times that we went through the same process, and you're thinking, no one's watching me, no one's looking, no one's around, but the opportunities present themselves. If you're willing to put the work in and make the sacrifices at times when people aren't watching you. It's easy to look good and do well when your coaches are watching, but what are you doing outside? What are you doing off the pitch? What are you doing on the pitch? What are you doing at times when no one's watching? Do you make those same choices, or are you taking shortcuts? These are the things that we always talk about. We try to mentor through with our coaches, delivering the same messages with Chris, with Joe, with Kofi, who unfortunately couldn't come because Kofi's got a very similar story that we'll tell you about at a later time. I'm passionate about this, as you can probably see, and I hope each and every one of you can achieve a similar journey if that's what you want. Or at least you take some skills that you learn from here and you apply those to other areas of your life, which I did in my own career. And as I said, I stopped when I was young, but applied the same skills in law, which wasn't easy for me, and got through that. And I mean, for me, that was a great achievement as well. So these are the lessons that we're trying to instill. So the little things, like when we say, are you diligent in terms of turning up on time? Are you wearing the right equipment? Are you hydrated? All the messages that these guys give you. There's a reason and a purpose behind it. It's not just for the sake of saying it. There's a reason. And it's the preparation is, if you think that you want to achieve the same things, not just what Aaron's done, but hopefully at a higher level, you can't make that jump unless you prepare yourself, and that's what we're trying to do. So, yes, that's quite a nice story, I think. And we're very proud of Aaron, and we're looking forward to each and every one of you achieving any of the goals that you may have now, or you